Okay, so I don't have a ton of time today for after the show. After the show has generally been a well, what has it been? It's been a show where I just kind of go and talk about things after the fact. I am gonna pop this on my. I'm gonna pop this on my pardon me, Farcaster. Shout out to everybody on Twitch. Shout out to everybody on the arena. I'm wearing the hat today because I want to talk about my Agent Swarm for a little bit. I'm still eating, so I apologize. I'm going to eat in front of you because I didn't want to take too much longer. And I accidentally cast it already, so I need to recast. Let me get the link. And I've made a conscious decision, a couple conscious decisions. I'm gonna recreate the TVL podcast on OBS moving forward. Maybe Meld, if Meld has really come as far forward as I think that they have. I'm on a Mac. Well, it's mainly producing on a Mac, so that's kind of the thing. But Ecamm's been glitching way too much when I share screen. As much as I love the interview thing, and I'm not gonna say that it's not worth $40 because it certainly has been a very good investment. I went from StreamYard, which was, 90 some dollars a month. I met someone who has a setup. Shout out to Nick, by the way. They pay in excess of $200 for StreamYard every month, and I mean, obviously, if it's good for your business, but yeah, with the amount of glitching that's been going on Ecamm, I can't justify paying them um, $40 anymore a month. It's just been too detrimental to the quality of the podcast, mainly because it stops me, right? I have to go back and change scenes and then come back, and then it kind of throws off the flow of the show. It becomes more comical when I'm trying to be, fairly serious. So yeah, I think my time with Ecamm as an experiment has come to an end. Great product. I'm sure just for solo things, it's fine. But there's some things that I missed that they're not going to address anytime soon. So, but I know there's some LBS stuff that can. So there's that. Uh huh. I'm almost done with my food, so I should probably just play this video from RTX, and you guys can watch that. Let me just make sure that you can even hear it. I think you can. We'll see. I didn't even play the intro. Let's play the intro. Let's play it again. I'm done. I'm just kidding. No, let's do it. All right, now I'm almost done. Got like one big bite left of this dinner from my oldest daughter's birthday dinner. She wanted a recreation of one of her favorite foods from Carrabba's, which is rigatoni martino. It's not on the menu anymore, but it's delicious. Rigatoni pasta, red sauce, cream, blackened chicken, and artichokes. And then I made scampi, shrimp scampi pasta for dinner last night. I just added some of that on top, so now it's very rich. Uh-huh. One more time. Anyway. Can't believe I didn't run the intro. Also, hot take. I am a brown soda degenerate. Or pop, as we call it here in the Midwest. I need to cut this up because I don't want sea creatures to be choked by these rings. Coca-Cola, Coke Zero specifically, better in the fountain. Pepsi Zero, which is my normal, which I have in the garage fridge, much better in the can and the bottle. Coke Zero, not very good in the bottle. Much better in the fountain. Pepsi Zero, used to be called Pepsi Max, not good on the fountain. Much better in bottles. Some people may think that's a crazy take. I don't think it's a crazy take at all. I think that there are multiple things that are just way better when you have them in the can or in the fountain, meaning they're from a soda fountain. Like if you go to a convenience store, they just have, pour this, whatever. Anyway, this is after the show where I talk about some other things that are kind of on my mind. And I have a little bit of time, so we'll talk about that today. Today's show, we had Logan Fulcher, president of the Nebraska chapter for Stand With Crypto. Very outspoken young man. Great human. Also at lfnull.com, he's making a prototype for a new type of mouse. We can talk about that another time. But what I wanted to cover is that my show, my podcasts, all have agendas. And one thing I've been doing to help with my workflow is to have AI kind of put together an agenda based off of all of the different news topics that are available that I have aggregated that I use for my research. And I have a podcast producing agent put something together for an agenda. Now, I didn't use it today because I frankly thought it was fairly underwhelming with regards to the topics. So I'm going to come back to my agent and show what I ended up talking about today, because it was not what the agent had put together. And this is why AI will never win. Who knows? But let me bring up the agenda that, and this is totally breaking down the fourth wall for you guys, because I normally don't share this with anyone. But this is the agenda that I came up with. Now, I do have the script here that I never read correctly anymore. It has the, all the panel we have, and I just talk about who they are. We had Logan on. And then talking about the news. Now, we have ad reads. I don't do the ad reads as much anymore. But this is on Awaken. Shout out to Awaken. And these are the 4 articles that I decided to talk about. Now, I could have talked about the base MCP agent. Yeah, I didn't talk about either of these, any of this. What we ended up talking about today, we cold opened with the RTX stuff from Computex, so we waxed about Computex for a minute. We talked about the idea of the RTX Spark. Got Logan's thoughts on that, it being in multiple laptops right now. We didn't mention Hyperliquid, but mainly because they're at all-time highs. We talked a little bit about, how things are being manipulated with rising geopolitical tensions. Also mentioned some other things. We talked about the idea that you can choose your own financial um, custody journey thanks to some new things from Deal, DEEL. We talked about how that mimics what PayPal has been doing for quite some time now. What else did we talk about? I have it here in another document. We talked about how you can. So we talked about the multiple wallets, and I brought back, my wallet meta prediction from January 2025. We also talked about, can you buy crypto without KYC? You can. How do you do it? Showed the peer.xyz protocol. PewDiePie rolls out an AI platform. The new future with Stellar. And then we talked about, we had a hard stop for Logan Early. So we just kind of talked about his product lineup at the end with his Hawk glove. And then once he left, we talked about Stellar, we talked about PewDiePie, and then we talked about the quantum update from Justin Drake, who co-authored the paper with the optimizations for the Shor algorithm for Bitcoin and Ethereum current cryptography. How it can get compromised or broken by a quantum computer, which is what QDAST is really, well, it's in this context what it currently means. Can break the current best cryptography out there. Government said 2035 through NIST and NSA. Google says 2029 is now the date. So that's a full 6 years ahead of schedule. So something to consider, but Justin did mention that he believes that's actually a bit overblown. And it's actually going to be a 50% chance at 2029, and then, I'm sorry, 10% chance by 2029, or is it 2030? And then a 50% chance by 2032. Now, there is lineup saying that, we could be hit by a devastating asteroid by 2032. So there's that. But so I didn't end up using the agenda that my agent prepped for me based on all of the stuff I've been researching, because it just wasn't something I was really looking to talk about. But we can talk about it here. I'll talk a little bit about my agentic factory, if you want to call it, as well. Because if you can tell by the look of this information here, so what I can tell you, and let me just kind of reposition that. So this is Obsidian. If you're not familiar with what Obsidian is a repository vault platform that is based in a language called Markdown. Markdown is a presentation language meant to be creating nice documents using shorthand. This is all based in Markdown, using headings, using spacing, stuff like that. So Obsidian is a vault. Basically, it can take a folder of documents and create an actual quote-unquote vault based off of it. Now, the reason why it's powerful is because you can have hyperlinks and all that stuff inside of your vault to link between different documents, kind of turning it into like your own little Wikipedia. So I use Obsidian as a brain for my local AI setup. So I have a PC, formerly Windows. It now runs Linux. And basically what I have, I'd show you a picture, but it's super dusty because I have it on Open Test Bench. And what is a test bench? A test bench is, let me see if I can grab one. Yeah. It looks an awful lot like this stuff. Let me change this. because I mean, just to kind of see what the output was like. So I appreciate what the AI agent podcaster thing did, but it didn't save me time this week, or nor did it feed me anything from my research that I thought would be worthy to talk about on the show today. Could have talked about Aave v4 and their quote unquote Aave OS, DeFi's OS, with their hub and spoke using Aave v4. We could have talked about Kevin Warsh. He is no longer the frontrunner. He actually has been sworn in. So Base released their agent gateway, as well as Base Azul. That's now live. And then Hyperliquid versus Polymarket is an interesting thing to talk about. But it specifically talked about Humanity Protocol. I did talk about that, actually, for a quick second. Because Hyperliquid having a specific prediction market on Humanity is interesting. But overall I didn't use it. But I'll talk a little bit more about the setup. So let me change the screen share. Is it broke? Did it in? It is broke. Did it in? There we go. And let me make this. Make this a little bit smaller. There. But this is what a test bench looks like. Mine looks a lot like this. Yeah, that's what mine looks very much like. And what's nice about it is it allows obviously very open airflow. Allows me to just put my motherboard with my GPU, which is an older 12 gig RTX 3060 Ti. I'm running a MSI Bazooka B550 motherboard with 32 gigs of RAM. Yeah, 32 gigs of, 32 gigs of RAM, not 64. 32 gigs of RAM, DDR4. And then the processor with the stock air cooler is an AMD Ryzen 5 3600, which in my opinion is plenty. The GPU is the one doing most of the work anyway. I am using Ollama locally to run, I think, a mixture between Gemma 4 and which is from Google. I think Qwen 3.5B is the other. It'll kind of go between the two. That's backed up by a 550 watt power supply. So, and I have two 5 terabyte external USB hard drives, mechanical, on that, along with a it's a 1 tera 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD on the motherboard. So that is the setup for the box. It's running Linux. It's running a specific version of Linux from Bazzite. Bazzite is well known as a handheld gaming Linux distribution. But Bazzite, it is based off of Fedora, which is a very old Linux distribution. It's also immutable, which I'm trying out just for the idea, right? So this is what my lock screen looks like. And it's mainly meant because Steam's built in, so you can use it to play games and stuff like that. I could stream gaming to my living room TV upstairs, for example. But yeah. It's image based. It's also immutable, meaning it cannot be modified very easily, much like smart contracts in DeFi. So that part was very interesting to me. I found it quite. I cannot believe that it's not sharing my screen right now. No, not you, not you, you. Anyway, yeah, definitely not going to be using Ecamm moving forward. This is nuts. I can't believe I can't. That's just crazy. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, Baslight's great. I really enjoyed my time. Now I've considered, because I don't love the idea of using an immutable OS sometimes just for like building and developing. I have thought about going to CachyOS.org, which is based off of Arch Linux, which is a very fast, very secure Linux distribution. And they've got a lot of really good stuff baked in. It's definitely a specific way of going about, how to have a Linux distribution. Currently on my Baslet, I'm using KDE Plasma. I was considering using, GNOME or possibly even XFCE or Fluxbox, but haven't gotten to figure out how I want to do it. I'll probably stick with KDE. Honestly, I've had a good experience with it. I mean, I've been using Linux forever. Just so you guys know, I have multiple laptops and desktops that have run Linux in some form. I have a couple of IBM ThinkPads. One of them runs the prettiest Unix distribution, which is Mac OS, on it, as a Hackintosh, as they call it. And I also have one running, not Baslight, but I think it's just running straight Ubuntu. Anyway, most people probably don't care, and that's okay. But yeah, most of my stuff is being run using Gemini CLI. I know that may be not the most amazing idea for a lot of people, but that means I get to run my agents locally. They runs on my box here to my left, and I actually use MCPs, which is Model Context Protocol connections, into Obsidian, so it can actually read that. It uses a document repository also for memory, and it builds my agents in a variety of languages using the MCP. And that's kind of how it's been working. It's been really good so far. I've developed quite a few vibe-coded apps as well using Gemini. I found Gemini to be very, for the most part, I like this because it's, for the most part, been free. I could use Claude Code. I could use Codex from ChatGPT, but yeah, decided not to. Now, I do pay for Google One, which allows me to get the Google Pro subscription. I also subscribe to Google Pro for $20 a month. So I have plenty of tokens. I have no idea if I've even come close to even spending most of my tokens. I don't believe so. I've never been rate limited by any of the stuff that my things are doing. And my agents run on what are called, well, they're called cron jobs, but Baslight doesn't use cron. It uses system CTL timers. So they run on timers. They run on like every 6 to 8 hours or roughly to do specific tasks to run my content creator business. So that's really the main reason why I have that. I'm also working on a digital twin specifically for people interested in learning how to become a DeFi native. That way it frees me up for more resources, and you get access to all of the content that I've put together over the last 5 years using my digital twin. And obviously if there's a question that the twin can't answer, I'm happy to answer that as well. But that'll most likely be put behind a paywall, just so you guys know, to be open and honest and transparent about that, because you know, it's a business. It needs revenue. Anyway, talking about the rest of what happened on the show, we talked a little bit about the Surface laptop. And again, my screen is not moving, so this is completely annoying. It's using this new NVIDIA Silicon, which is the RTX Spark, right? That's what this is, just turned on its side. But, and this was announced 2 days ago at Computex, using the Blackwell GPU, the GB, that's actually a bigger CPU. The GB10 was the original Grace 10-core chip. Now it's a 20-core chip, up to 1 petaflop in AI performance, which is massive, by the way. 128 gigs of unified memory, of course, also massive. This is meant to go after the Apple M series of silicon. Now, how much will it cost? That's the question, right? I believe that this thing is going to come in at $1,500. I believe is what I said on the stream. Because it does multiple things. This allows you to create using AI workflows. This allows you to game, like with GeForce Now, which is their gaming cloud. NVIDIA Broadcast, which allows you to stream and do other things, are a part of this as well. It'll be very, very good for the NVIDIA ecosystem. And NVIDIA has spent many years creating and leading up to this point. With that said, this is not the first time they've made a chip to try and attack not just Apple, but Intel at the same time. They tried to do this with Project Denver way back in the day. Didn't quite work out because ARM chips, these are all ARM chips as opposed to x86 from Intel. This is on a 3 nanometer platform as well, so very small. I mean, this thing is tiny. I mean, if we saw a picture of, let's see. And I don't know if you can hear. You can't see it there, but Jensen Huang actually held it up. It's literally this big. It's that big, and it's very powerful. And what they're talking about here is multiple things: gaming, using Blender, which is 3D rendering. You saw the picture of just what it can do, right? Being able to take a picture, and what this was a hand-drawn 2D picture, and that was very flat. They turned it into a 3D giant griffin bird model thing. So there's that. So in a lot of ways, it's become the one thing that the Apple M series can do, except the M series cannot do gaming well. And frankly, I don't know if the RTX chip will do that either, especially for AAA games. Because the Steam Deck itself runs a specific chip that also is definitely not as powerful as an RTX Spark, but it's also a quarter of what the price will be, right? You can get a Steam Deck for under $500 if you're looking very closely for an LCD, not OLED model. And they use a specific Ryzen, let's look. Steam Deck Gen 1 specs. Yeah, it's a quad-core Zen 2 processor from AMD, which is 7 nanometer process. I mean, this is coming in on a 3 nanometer process. So it's going to be even smaller, more. I'm not going to say it's going to be more power efficient, but I mean, The Zen 2's been able to provide a very nice experience for the majority of games in your backlog. So will the RTX Spark do that? Absolutely. It's going to cream what this is. But I don't think it'll ever get to the point where they turn in. They're going to be using a handheld gaming thing. And frankly, you may not need to. If you buy the DGX Spark, which is a product that currently is being used, or so, it was sold last year for $22.99. It's now $46.99. That it's not the laptop. It's this little box, by the way. What's in the bundle? Oh, two of them connected together. And these things are small, guys. These things are, they're bigger than a Mac Mini, but they're still small, right? And then that's a ridiculous amount. Two of these together equals one of these. So this is going to be a very special chip. Will it be enough to put NVIDIA at the forefront of electronics and personal computing? I think the answer is yes. If it can run Windows 11. Now, they're going to be, the Laptop Ultra is one, but if they can run Windows better, and probably if they'll do it, it'll probably be in a container, which is what they should do. Because Windows runs fantastic in an emulation window, like in a container like Docker. When you emulate it, as opposed to actually running it as your OS from as they say, from metal, it's so much more stable in an emulated space. My personal opinion, my take. You may not feel that way, but regardless, two of these put together is pretty insane. And that was it, really. I got a couple more things I have to get to at the top of the hour. So check out the space for on-chain media. I've retweeted on my tweeters, so you can check that out. Sorry, I'm looking at some interesting things that came up. One thing I didn't talk about on the show today, let's talk about this. Trezor had a vulnerability in their Tropic 1 secure element chip. Now, funds are safe. This was specifically in the Safe 7. So if you don't actually have that model, you're fine. Trezor Safe 7. And that's like the highest end Trezor, which is not the one I would recommend anyway. Yeah, that's this buddy right here. I mean, the ones that we'd recommend, I mean, I tell people just to buy the Safe 3 if they're going to have a Trezor. Now, the best way to use the Trezor, frankly, is just as cold storage that never touches a decentralized finance smart contract. Don't let it touch a smart contract ever. Use it as a true cold storage wallet. That's the best way to use it, in my opinion. Mainly because all of the DeFi wallet infrastructures out there don't support it, except on Ethereum virtual machine blockchain. So anything that's a layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, EVM compatible chain, Trezor's fine. But the moment you head out to places like Solana, Cosmos, Starknet, Stacks in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Other places that accept hardware wallets as a way to connect to a wallet that's being used in the ecosystem. None of them support Trezor. They only support Ledger. So, interestingly enough, this the findings that were concerning the Tropic 01 secure element came from Ledger Donjon. That's their special team that is used to look at security vulnerabilities. One second. Sorry, I was just messaging my wife. She messaged me. You know, it's very important to have good communication with your partner. Okay, so Donjon found this in an independent audit. It hasn't been hacked or exploited, but they did find something that was a thing. Again, not the Trezor I would recommend. I would recommend a 3, mainly because of the issues I mentioned previously. You know, number one, it doesn't really work. I mean, it's not one you would use for most blockchain ecosystems anyway, unless you're just using Ethereum virtual machine blockchains, which is fine. Other than that, when people ask what can I use as a cold storage wallet, use any of them. Use Trezor, use Ledger, use Tangem, use GridPlus, use Keystone, Arcturus, whatever you want to use. Exodus, whatever's out there. If there's anything out there that has a cold storage option and it works for you and how you want to use it, use it. Just make sure it is a cold storage wallet. It never touches a blockchain. And the best way to move your funds back and forth is using an off-ramp, an on-ramp and off-ramp, like a CEX. Other Thorchain is another example of a place where you can on-ramp and off-ramp fairly easily from something like a cold storage wallet. But then again, you don't want to touch anything that has a smart contract. So that's also out of the question. So CEX is right. CEX is MoonPay. Any type of on-ramp or off-ramper that has access to that would be one way that you'd want to send funds back and forth. Now, I would also recommend, even if you're doing cold storage, that you have a specific address on that hardware wallet, because as you know, this is based off of a seed phrase, whether that 1224 plus a hidden passphrase wallet if you want. You don't want to use the first wallet as the place where you store most of your funds. Set up multiple wallets, and then based off of how you feel, you can put by asset, whichever, put them on different wallet addresses within there, not the first one, you know. That way, if someone were to recover your wallet because they got your seed phrase, they may not necessarily realize that your funds are not in the first 2 or 3 wallets. Because every seed phrase can generate thousands of wallet addresses across multiple ecosystems that follow the BIP39 standard from Bitcoin. So, with that said, even though it's on the 7, I mean, it's not the one that I would recommend anyway, because the 7 costs $250. Yeah, there's nothing specific about that 7. If we, let's see, 3 layers of hardware security and quantum ready architecture. That might be the only reason why. It's a color touchscreen. The 3 doesn't have quantum resistant architecture, if I'm remembering correctly. But it is EAL 6 plus. We always say EAL 5 plus. So EAL 6 plus is nice, but they haven't mentioned the quantum part yet. $12, $20, and 24 word wallet backup. Always get the most. And they do multi-share. Interesting. Interesting. Into multiple 20-word shares. Oh, that's like for Shamir. But that would be the one. I would recommend the 3. Now, if you want that quote-unquote quantum resistance, which I still think it's way too early for, you may want to consider a 7, but I think it in the next couple of years, the base model will have all that, as it should, right? So that's why I don't think it's worth getting the 7. So again, this going on the 7, yeah, it sucks. But is it one that I would recommend to people anyway? No, it is not. Now, with that said, them being proactive is great. The original post we have here is from Danny, who's on the team, who's the CCO. Transparency is non-negotiable. Some very nice things that people say here. Wow. FCS is... That is some strong words there. Anyway, shout out to Don John Ledger, to Ledger's Don John team, for finding that and bringing it to Trezor's attention so they could patch it. I do recommend... I kind of shocked I don't follow them. I've been following a lot of their posts, so anyway. Post-quantum cryptography. That's interesting. It's very good. I like that they have this. And actually, this actually affects multiple devices, because Trezor's not the only one that's using the Tropic 01, according to this. So Tropic 01 is an open, tamper-resistant, secure element that stores keys, enforces pins, and protects devices against side-channel and physical attacks, giving users stronger protection, robot arm, for wallets, IoT, and identity devices. Well, as you can see, there was a problem that had to be patched. And again, my screen is frozen. This is just ridiculous. As I mentioned, I will not be using Ecamm starting this Friday with the Beat the Banks podcast, just because this is at least the 6th or 7th time that this has happened. It's intermittent, but it's enough that it's causing me to be thrown off of what I'm trying to do. And let's have good content out there when I have to sit here and go back and forth, even with my Stream Deck, which I don't have apparently set up right now. That's a big problem. I don't know why my Stream Deck is shut down. Maybe I stepped on something. I need better cable management. Regardless. There's an executive order being signed right now. Things are dumping. Unless your name is Hyperliquid. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. 65. ETH now under 1800. I mean, these are decent DCA targets, guys. Frankly. Now, I've been calling that we're going to be sideways, range bound between, I think I called it 60 to 80 for most of the however long. And for the most part, that's kind of held true. We're just going to continue to see some crabbing. Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see crabs. I don't think I don't think we fall below whatever the next resistance level is. But that also depends on what happens geopolitically. So we'll see exactly where we head to from here. But geopolitically, it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. As I mentioned on my Monday stream, we're going to have one of two options. Either an act of supreme humility, which I know a certain President of the United States will not allow to happen, or an act of severe force. Supreme force was the word I used. Now, depending on who you watch, depending on who you look at, sorry, I'm looking for a specific tweet from the Kobe EC letter. So apparently they have tried to attack U.S. bases with intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, and drones. The problem is we're at June 3rd, and we're in the danger zone for countries to get through all of their reserves. Now, depending on how you feel about this, I don't know how we go back to where things were, right? That, to me, that's the hardest part about this. Is like, the Strait was open before all of this happened. The Strait probably will never be open in the same way. They're gonna have to figure out a new way to get just a way to get oil, natural gas, other products that can only be taken out on barges and ships out through the Strait of Hormuz. Countries like Bahrain, countries like Qatar. Saudi Arabia has already moved everything to the west, but they're still, limited by the amount that they can refine. No idea how long it's going to take for that infrastructure to scale up to do that. The U.S. has control of the Venezuelan oil fields now. Nothing. In terms of news on what they're doing to scale up that production, to use that for possibly selling to the rest of the world, because it seems like most of the world is really expecting this light crude that's produced, as opposed to shale, which is what we have out here, or the Venezuelan oil, which is still a different type of oil. So Um, yeah, I mean, this has kicked off a bunch of things that, uh, yeah, it's not in a good spot. Now, I know that, so the U.S. wants no uranium for Iran. They want them to stop attacking Lebanon, per what's been said, and some other things. Uh, Iran wants to have access to be able to create a weapon, but they also want to be able to get reparations for the attacks that were taken out on their infrastructure. And I think that's the sticking point, right? Because there were talks that Trump was willing to give $300 billion to a staged rollout to Iran, which on the surface looks absolutely terrible, right? Oddly, oil has been not $200 a barrel, mainly thanks to, saying things on the timeline, showing progress, getting sentiment looking good, and not allowing people to continue to, just continuing to manipulate the price of oil overall. I'm going to take that off. But, yeah, like I said, we're in a situation where we're going to have either an act of supreme humility, which I don't think is happening, or an act of supreme force, which I think is most likely going to happen at this point. And if that happens, then the whole global economy spins, and that hits everything. It already has hit everything. Everything's getting more expensive, especially electronics. Agriculture is getting more expensive because there isn't as much fertilizer. There's a variety of things. It was never. I mean, the halt on the oil. It's interesting because Trump campaigned on drill, baby, drill. We haven't seen any drilling. We saw a takeover. All right, Maduro was arrested, and now we have control of the Venezuelan oil fields. But I don't really see anything moving there. I'm sure that it could be. I mean, we just don't hear about it, but we hear about everything else apparently. So we'll see exactly how this kind of plays out. But overall, expect to see more pain, expect to see more volatility, and expect to see more manipulation. And depending on how good you are at trading against manipulation, you can do all right. But to say that we're in a good space is would be, frankly, a little disingenuous, right? So just continue to farm your yields. If you follow my content, keep following your yields. Stay safe, no leverage, and just continue to just grind out while we wait for better days ahead. We're still seeing all of this integration, right? Integration of banks, wallets, the DTCC, XRP Ledger starting to wake up finally. Maybe we'll see some better infrastructure there. But anyway, I'm going to hop off for now. And thanks for joining. You can watch the beginning where I replay my introduction 3 times while I finish eating. I thought it was funny, but maybe it wasn't. Anyways, regardless of what's going on, just be kind. Be kind to one another. You can only control what's in your 4 walls, and just be kind to each other and be good people. That's what I tell my children. That's what I tell my daughters. So with that said, we'll see you later. Be back. Probably won't be streaming tomorrow. If I do, it'll be a reaction stream where we just try and laugh because I like to laugh. And then Friday for Beat the Banks, where I'm not quite sure what we'll talk about. Probably security related, but in the interest of what happened today with the Trezor exploit, maybe it's good to talk about hardware wallets one more time. But we'll see. See you later. Take care. 07.